19-year-old Nancy Elaine Anderson lived in Michigan in 1971. She had just recently graduated from high school. Nancy was one of 10 children. In the fall of 1971, Nancy moved to Waikiki in Honolulu County, Hawaii. She landed a job at a local McDonald's and found an apartment where she lived with roommate Jody Spooner. In the late afternoon hours of January 7, 1972, Jody Spooner called 911 to report that she found Nancy's lifeless body in her bathroom. At first, Jody believed her roommate took her own life, but investigators discovered that Nancy had been fatally stabbed by someone else. The autopsy would later reveal that Nancy had been stabbed 63 times. Investigators found blood at the crime scene on 2 towels that belonged to a man. They theorized that the culprit accidentally cut himself during the attack. Jody Spooner helped police create a timeline of events leading up to the crime. Jody told them about 2 cutlery salesmen who was in their apartment around 1:30 to 1:45 p.m. Jody says that after they left, she went to take a nap in her room. She awoke at 5:15 p.m., hearing water running in Nancy's bathroom. When she went to take a look, she discovered Nancy's body and called the police. The first units responded at 5:29 p.m. Police interviewed the 2 door-to-door salesmen, but found that they were not viable suspects. After they left, Nancy went to a nearby Bank of Hawaii to open an account. The teller at the bank estimated that Nancy was at the bank somewhere between 2:15 and 3 p.m. Based on the time it would take for Nancy to walk home from the bank, the police estimated her life was taken somewhere between 3:10 p.m. and 5:15 p.m. The salesman's fingerprints did not match any at the crime scene, and they both passed polygraph tests. They were subsequently ruled out as suspects. Jody Spooner described Nancy as too friendly with strangers and a person who would talk to anyone on the street without regard for her personal safety. Jody's boyfriend, Kim Weaver, said that Nancy associated with men he only knew by nickname: Reno, Nevada, Cowboy, Frenchman, and the Dude from Detroit. The man known as Reno, Nevada was identified as William Manor. William said he dated Nancy, but he hadn't been to her apartment. He said he met Nancy and made plans with her through apparently frequent yet chance meetings at the beach. William also claimed to have seen Nancy hanging out with other men, but he did not know any of their names. Manor described Nancy as a very nice girl with a great personality, but felt she could have been a little less friendly with strangers. A friend of Jody Spooner told the police that Nancy would bring home weird-looking guys and dated several different men. Interviews, lie detector tests, and even DNA tests over the decades involving many of Nancy's friends, co-workers, associates, and roommate in Hawaii turned up little of value. More specifically, those efforts failed to yield a viable suspect. In 2018, investigators started working with Parabon Nanolabs to help solve the case by identifying the perpetrator. Parabon was able to create this image of the suspect using his DNA that was found on the towels inside of Nancy's apartment back in 1972. Then, more recently, the unknown man's DNA was submitted into public DNA databases. Using genetic genealogy, it led investigators to 77-year-old Tudor Chirilla Jr. He was taken into custody at his home in Reno, Nevada on September 13, 2022. Chirilla tried to take his own life after he was arrested, but failed. Investigators discovered that he was a graduate assistant at the University of Hawaii in 1971. After leaving Hawaii, Chirilla reportedly went to law school, graduated, and worked as a deputy attorney general in Nevada. He was then a longtime attorney in Reno, Carson City, and the Lake Tahoe area. He eventually ran for election to the Nevada Supreme Court in 1994. Chirilla lost that election. Nancy's brother, Jack Anderson, had this to say following the arrest: "She was an integral part of our family, and when her life was taken, it just left a hole in our hearts and in our family." Chirilla is currently in custody in Reno, and he has not yet entered a plea. "11-year-old Lora Ann Huizar lived in Fort Pierce, Florida in 1983. On the evening of Saturday, November 5th, she spent a night at her friend's house. The following day, she decided to walk home. She stopped at a gas station along the way and seemingly vanished into thin air after exiting the building. Lora Ann's father reported her missing when she did not return home as planned. However, at the time, authorities did not take the reports of missing adolescents seriously until they had been missing for a longer period of time. 3 days later, authorities with the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office received reports that a body of a young girl was found in a drainage ditch, which was an estimated 600 yards from the gas station where Lora Ann was last seen. St. Lucie County Deputy James Howard Harrison was the first law enforcement officer to arrive on the scene. It was later learned that he was also the last person to have seen Lora Ann alive. On the day she vanished, Deputy Harrison reported seeing a young girl walking in the area where she was last seen. Harrison noted in his report that the girl was walking away from the gas station and appeared to be carrying a bundle of clothing. Chief Deputy Brian Hester questioned why Harrison did not offer the girl a ride. Harrison simply said she seemed to be a runaway. When Harrison arrived at the crime scene, he asked the witnesses who found the body to leave the area. Several other deputies arrived approximately 20 minutes later. In addition to identifying the body as Lora Ann, authorities confirmed that she had been assaulted. The autopsy revealed that she had been asphyxiated. Although detectives collected evidence from Lora Ann's body, DNA testing was not yet available, and there were few leads in the heinous crime. In 2020, investigators decided to take another look at the case. This time, with more advanced DNA technology, they were able to identify the man responsible. In March of 2022, it was confirmed that Deputy James Howard Harrison took the life of Lora Ann Huizar. His DNA matched the DNA found inside her body. St. Lucie County Sheriff's Detective Paul Taylor said he began working the case in 2020. As he began his investigation, Harrison was not even a name on his radar. However, as he dug deeper into the evidence, he realized Harrison had a troubled past and a disturbing reputation for targeting young girls. In addition to working for the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office, Harrison was a preacher at Fort Pierce's Bethel Baptist Church. Approximately 5 months after Lora Ann's life was taken, Harrison was accused of abuse by members of the church. Harrison realized that the accusations could cost him his job at the sheriff's office. In an effort to spare his job, he went directly to the home of the chief deputy to explain the situation. Although he brought his wife along and denied the allegations, the chief told Harrison to leave and immediately contacted Sheriff Lanny Norville about the accusations and told him he wanted Harrison to be dismissed. The current St. Lucie Sheriff, Ken J. Mascara, said he remembers working with Harrison back in the 1980s. At that time, he expressed concerns about Harrison's interactions with younger girls. Unfortunately, Ken J. Mascara's complaints were essentially ignored. Mascara said his superiors believed James Howard Harrison simply enjoyed mentoring children and teenagers in his capacity as a preacher, and extended that to the girls he met through his work with the sheriff's office. Detective Paul Taylor said he is concerned that former Deputy Harris used his position as a preacher and a sheriff to take advantage of children and teens throughout the area. However, no other victims have come forward. It is unclear how Harrison continued working in law enforcement after he was accused of inappropriate behavior with minors. However, Taylor said hiring decisions were largely based on resumes alone, and background checks were rare at the time. According to his obituary, James Howard Harrison passed away on June 2, 2008, at the age of 73. The obituary states he worked in law enforcement for 25 years and was a member of the Oakview Baptist Church at the time of his passing. Harrison was preceded by his wife, Elizabeth. He was survived by one son, one daughter, and 3 grandchildren. Detective Paul Taylor said he was happy to have finally solved the 39-year-old crime. However, the conclusion he reached was both good and bad. In the media release, he said, "The day I solved this case was both the worst and best day of my 30-year career in law enforcement. Nobody dislikes a bad cop more than a good cop, and it felt bittersweet to finally provide the victim's family with some long-awaited answers." Although both of Lora Ann's parents are not alive anymore, her brother Joe and sister Michelle said they are both thankful to have some closure.